Welcome back, everybody, to the Second Floor podcast. This is where we talk about how to survive, how to thrive, and keep the good vibes going in life and business. Today's guest, our conversation was amazing. We talked everything to do with mental health, the struggles behind mental health, the stigma behind mental health. This is someone who has been in the fitness industry for over 15 years, is a serial entrepreneur, and has recently founded the Mental Wealth Project. This is essentially a project to build mental health awareness across the globe. And it started right here from Edmonton. Kaylor Betts is the guy. He is incredible. I mean, we had this conversation and I took a lot of value from it, especially from, the ups and downs of life, figuring out kind of your journey and kind of what you kind of go through as life moves on. And we talk a lot in detail about how he's gone through his journey in terms of being an entrepreneur, the struggles and the things he's gone through in his own mental health. And I feel like this episode is going to bring you guys a lot of value. If you know someone who's struggling with their mental health, if you're someone who's gone through ups and downs in your own mental health, this is a great episode to tune into. So I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Definitely check out the Mental Wealth Project. Definitely check out Kaylor Betts. And here we go. Kaylor, man, I appreciate you coming.
Thanks, man.
This was supposed to happen a while back.
Yeah.
And we finally have you on. And I love what you're doing. Thank you. I want to kind of speak on it, kind of dive in. I know we kind of went on a ramble for a little bit beforehand. So kind of tell us what you've been up to and what's been going on.
Yeah, like lately?
Yeah.
Lately, I have been on a pursuit of what I've realized is my passion, and that's mental health, man. Changing the face of mental health on this planet, really. And it comes from my own struggles. I struggled for many years with mental health challenges, and it's pretty cool to be able to get into something. I've built businesses in the past. I've, been an athlete in the past, and, I've always been on this pursuit of growth and achievement, but it's always come from a place of fear of failure, insecurity, trying to prove my worth to everyone, trying to prove that, I'm worthy in this world. Mostly because I didn't graduate high school. So the system that told me, or the system that is essentially the system that we use to determine success told me that I was a failure. So right from then on, I was insecure about my intelligence and my, potential and worthiness and all that stuff. So I got on this path of, really trying to achieve a ton of things based on that insecurity. And I really struggled with that. And it's so nice to now transitioning into the mental health space to just be doing something that, I'm still trying to achieve. I'm still trying to grow. I'm still trying to get to that next level. I'll always have that in me, but it's coming from a place of like service, of genuinely wanting to help people, and not worrying about what level I'm getting to or anything like that. And like I said, don't get me wrong, I have large ambitions, but it feels good to be doing something that just comes from the right place, and it's genuine passion. So you asked me what I'm up to lately. I'm doing a couple bigger things for me. First off, I'm coaching, and I've been a coach for many years. Started off as a fitness and nutrition coach. Now I'm more so kind of flip that on its head, and I'm doing a little bit of fitness and nutrition still, but mostly working on the mindset side of things, the transformational side of things, helping people and taking them from where I was, being barely able to get out of bed and, function normally, to where I'm at now, which is, feeling pretty incredible, and helping people through that. And then I'm also building the Mental Wealth Project, which is our mission at the Mental Wealth Project is to become the #1 online resource and community in the mental health space. I feel like there's a void in the mental health space. There's a lot of, not even a lot, there's a few bigger organizations in mental health that are kind of formal and conventional and pretty serious, and which I think is needed, but they're kind of talking to you from like up here and you're down here
Yeah.
as someone who suffers from mental health. And we kind of want to be the opposite. We feel like there's a void of, we want to be the organization in mental health that has a personality that speaks to you on your level, like eye to eye. And mental health is really real and raw. So, we also want to, we want to show up like how people show up every day in mental health. It's a little bit scrappy. It's a little bit, it's up, it's down. There's personality to it. And we feel that people are going to relate to that more and be able to buy into it a little more, So I'm building that. I got a team. There's 7 of us, and we are going to achieve that mission through a few different ways. Number one is we have our social platforms. So we got our, Instagram, Facebook. We got getting into other branching out, but we're mostly active on Instagram and Facebook right now. We got our podcast, Mental Wealth Podcast, that launched a couple weeks ago. That's really seems to be resonating with people already. We got 7 episodes and more to come, one every week. We got our Mental Wealth Weekly, which is an email newsletter that just gives people anything and everything they want to know about mental health and how to achieve mental wealth. It could be a new app, it could be a new product in mental health, it could be a TED Talk that we saw, it could be anything. So that's going to go out weekly. And then we got plans to do a Facebook community as well too. And we're just a content hub. We're a place where people can come and feel comfortable to open up and share their story, which we've had many people from around the world share their story already. Some incredible people who share their story about what they've been through, and takes a lot of courage, so that someone across the world can go to our platforms and see, like, because the only way we're going to end the stigma, which is a big part of our mission, is if people open up. You can hashtag mental health awareness all day long, and I think that's needed and it's necessary, but until people actually come out and share their story, I don't think the stigma is going anywhere, because then it doesn't become normalized. There's still the stigma. Instead of just hiding behind a hashtag, even like, I don't want to be critical of Bell Let's Talk, because I think that's an amazing campaign. But again, I think there's just more that needs to be done. So we're trying to be that safe place, that platform where people can go and finally share their story and connect with someone across the world who suffers from the same thing that they suffer with, and provide resources as well too. We got professionals on the podcast talking about what you can do to achieve mental wealth and overcome mental health challenges and stuff. So we're still in our infancy, and who knows where we'll go with it eventually. It's a marathon, but it's been exciting so far.
Yeah. I really like what you're doing, man. I think, this whole mental health awareness has obviously been popularized the last little while.
Mm-hmm.
Why is mental health such an important thing for you? I know we touched base a little bit before the podcast, but I want you to share it, because I think it's very important. I know some of our listeners either know someone or are going through something. So maybe share something, why you decided to get into this space quite heavily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like the 2 reasons. Number one is I suffered in silence for most of my life. You would not catch me for many, many years. Like, I guess I even like 25 years, I'm 30 now. I would say 25 years of my life, you would never catch me telling anyone, other than maybe one person on this planet, which is my mom. Even the people closest to me, you wouldn't have caught me telling them that I suffer from, mental health challenges, because it's the number one source of shame that people who suffer usually have. And it's just not something you want to go out and tell people, especially because I had a good life. We talked about before, like no one's making a movie about my past. It was just a pretty, middle class family. Like, I didn't, my dad didn't leave me, or I didn't have like, a near death experience, or, whatever. Nothing crazy really happened. Circumstantially, I had a pretty good life. I was an athlete. I was, the guy who was told he had potential, but my mental health challenges always got in the way. So it was always a big source of shame, and never wanted to open up about it. And that's exhausting, dude. Like, to suffer, your entire life and get in your own way, and suffer from depression and anxiety and mental health challenges, and barely being able to get out of bed at some points and stuff like that. But yet then go to work and show up and put a smile on your face and act like everything's okay. There's nothing that's more exhausting than that. So I think when I finally was able to get to a place where I felt really great, and kind of really be able to cope with mental health challenges, and get to a place where I feel incredible, part of that process was the opening up. That's what helped me get there. And I think for whatever reason, I was able to find the courage to open up and share my story. And I think I just feel like I never want anyone to have to, go through that exhausting, covering it all up, like I had to. And if I can have even a fraction of an impact on someone being able to come out and share their story, I mean, that fulfills me beyond, I think, what anything else on this planet can do, because I know what it's like. And I also know that this is a global epidemic, I think it's the biggest threat to us, like, honestly, because collectively our mental health is pretty broken right now, and it's only getting worse.
Yeah.
So I just think it's such an important issue, man. And I feel like I can help.
Yeah.
Really feel like I can help. Because again, the only way we're going to normalize the conversation is if people start coming out and sharing. And, I hope that some people say, well, if Kaylor can do it, Kaylor seems like a normal guy. He's successful to a certain degree. And so I can go out and achieve. He believes he can go out and achieve all his wildest dreams. Why can't I?
Yeah. I think you hit on a really good point. I think, having a normal life and seeing like you have everything in place, a lot of people have that front. And then, but behind closed doors, they might have something that they're struggling with, or they might be going through some serious issues, but they cannot and will not, share that because of the embarrassment, the fear. Maybe it's something, it could be any of those things. And how do you think, someone should approach, sharing it? Obviously you've had the courage to kind of share your story, and kind of now you're building your own platform for others. But where would be the first step for someone who, is going through some things, and maybe they're not comfortable sharing it on platforms, or even sharing it to anyone? Where do you think they should, just obviously based on personal experience, where do you think they should start in that process?
Yeah, it's a really good question, man, because I think I'm really lucky to be an entrepreneur. And I think for entrepreneurs and anyone who's self-employed, it's a lot easier for us to come out and share this. Because if you work at, XYZ corporation, and you come out all of a sudden, you say like, I suffer from anxiety and depression, or schizophrenia, or bipolar. You say that on social media, and one of your coworkers sees it, which is likely if you have social media. And then next thing you know, your boss finds out that you have, mental health challenges. I'm not confident in saying that every boss out there is going to be empathetic enough to look at that and not, maybe have it affect the relationship going forward or the way that they treat them going forward. So I think where I'm getting at is I think there's a huge element of risk to coming out because of the stigma and because a lot of people don't understand what it means to have mental health challenges. And I think there's a significant risk for some people, and not everyone's as lucky as I am to be able to come out and share this and actually have it help their career in some ways, which was surprising to me because I always thought for a long time, and I should say that some entrepreneurs will still feel that same way, because for a long time I thought, I had a team for a long time with my gym, and I felt like there's no way I can come out and say I have mental health challenges. I'm supposed to be the rock. I'm supposed to be the leader. Now I'm going to be a liability.
Yeah.
If I say that I have mental health challenges. So it's a good question. It's tough to know how to do it. I think all I would say is start small. Like, you don't have to, I made this, obviously it was for the Mental Wealth Project. I made this video, it was 8 minutes long, and we put a lot of work into it, but you don't need to do that. It doesn't need to be that way for everyone. You can just start by telling your brother who you've never told before, and start there. And then what will probably happen is you'll be surprised at how well it was received. And then, work on telling your best friend. And then I think we get desensitized, and we also realize that people don't judge as much as we think. And a lot of times people will have more respect for you because they know it's difficult to come out and say that. And, you might be surprised. So start small, like baby steps, and then kind of go from there. But it's unfortunate that we still have to be careful because some people don't understand it, and they'll think differently of you. So that's a tough one.
Yeah. I know we were, again, chatting about this for a little bit before, but we might have certain friends that just say, hey man, just get over that. Yeah. What would you say to, people that don't go through certain challenges dealing with mental health? How would you, the skeptics or people that don't really believe that you're really going through something, like, just get over it. Why don't you just be happy?
Yeah.
What would you say?
There's a lot of skeptics out there. And I think the first thing I would say is I get it. Like I don't get it as in I've been in that position personally, but like I could see how if you've never really had mental health challenges to the point where it's affected your ability to lead a normal life, we all get depressed, we all get anxious, we all go through challenges, but a lot of people can just snap out of it very easily and just like, okay, I got a good life, I can move on. And I get how if you've never been through that, I get how you could look at someone their circumstances seem to be fine. They're alive. They have things they should be grateful for. I could see how they could look at someone like that who's saying that they suffer from depression, let's say, and look at them and be like, man, just like, there's so many reasons why you should be happy. Just be happier. Put a smile on your face. Like, suck it up. Like,
yeah,
I could see that. So that's the first thing I say to skeptics is like, I get it. But I think the second thing I would say, and I wish I made this up because it's genius, but I can't take credit for it. But I would say that telling someone that they should be happy because there's so much to be happy about is like telling an asthmatic they should just breathe because there's so much air. Yeah. Like, there is such thing as a broken brain. And I was telling you before, a good example is like, when you're in a state where you're not producing those hormones that make us happy, like serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and stimulant drugs, I think, are a really good example, right? If someone's on cocaine or MDMA, you either know personally because you've done it in the past, or have known and heard about it, known people who've done it and heard about it. But when you come off those drugs, your dopamine receptors are so fatigued, you're not producing the serotonin levels, like you should. That's normal. And you're just not charged up. You're really kind of low because those hormones are really suppressed. And I tell them, it's like, imagine living your entire life, or even a hangover, by the way, with alcohol. Imagine living your whole life like you are hungover or you are coming off stimulant drugs. No matter how good your circumstances are, it's hard to be charged up because you have no energy, and you're just not happy because there's a biochemical aspect to it. And that's the one that I've told them, that a lot of them have been like, never thought of it that way. That's pretty. And I'm like, yeah, there's a biochemical imbalance in the brain that can happen. Now, I'm not a guy that thinks that it's solely biochemical. And it's interesting because there's environmental factors and there's genetics.
Yeah, what's the analogy you said before?
Yes. So there's a cool analogy that says, genes hold the gun, environment pulls the trigger. So I do believe it's kind of like the chicken and the egg thing. It's like there's a biochemical aspect to mental illness where you may be more susceptible to it because you just don't have the genes. Like I said, even just with serotonin production, serotonin is one of our happy hormones, and we all produce different levels of it. So, there's some people who just don't produce a lot of it. And for whatever reason, there's a variety of reasons. So if you are susceptible to it, and then you have environmental factors, maybe your dad was emotionally abusive to you growing up, which created a subconscious belief system and thought pattern about yourself that's now ingrained into literally your hardware of your thinking. Well, that's a combination that happens, and it's a perfect storm. And then next thing you know, they're giving you one of these fancy disorders and labels, like you have bipolar or manic depression or whatever. So that's the analogy is there's genetics, and there's biochemistry, and there's environment. And the funny thing is emotions and environment create and change the biochemistry, because we can have a happy thought and that'll literally change the hormones that we produce. But then the hormones that we produce will also affect the thoughts that you have. So it's like the chicken and the egg. That's what I mean by the chicken and the egg thing. It's like, yes, we can change our biochemistry by our thoughts, because if we have a happy thought, we produce more serotonin. But if we're not producing enough serotonin, that can make us think bad thoughts. Like,
Yeah.
I think they both work synergistically, and there's a debate on whether or not, like, is this just purely a disease from a biological standpoint, or is this a thought pattern issue and a belief system? I think it's both,
Yeah.
personally.
I think I agree with you, and obviously I don't know the scientific backings and
Yeah.
whatnot. But just the way you brought it up, I think you bring good points on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
And I like you know, as like you said in beforehand, North America has one of the highest rates of, mental health challenges.
Yeah.
And it's funny because our parents are a lot more harder, and they've gone through a lot more things. You would expect that the previous generation, or I mean our parents, my dad, to be essentially messed up,
Mm-hmm.
because they've gone through so many different challenges in their life that are way harder than me and you could ever kind of imagine. So I want you to speak on that a little bit.
Yeah. It's
How soft essentially we are
Yeah.
compared to our parents.
Totally, man. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm a big proponent. I think it's pretty clear that quality of circumstances and happiness are not congruent with each other. There's no correlation to that. In fact, I think the only correlation potentially might be that if our circumstances are too good, therefore then we do not get equipped with the tools to deal with adversity, which would in turn make us more mentally strong. So I think what we're seeing is that we're so comfortable nowadays in North America. We're so comfortable nowadays that we can completely avoid most discomfort in our lives. It's really easy to just hide behind our phones and, live in our nice house and be warm all the time and have an abundance of food all the time. It's really easy to do that now. And then when shit hits the fan, when the inevitable suffering and adversity comes in our lives, we don't have the tools to know how to deal with it, right? And then we wonder why anxiety is so prevalent, and we wonder why depression is so prevalent. Because our parents' generation and the generations before, man, they had no choice but to toughen up, you know? They had no choice but to toughen up, like literally. And I was telling you, like, my grandpa jumped out of a plane as a paratrooper in World War II on the beach of Normandy to fight a battle and got shot in the knee with a grenade shrapnel while he was, shooting a gun. And I can't even jump out of a plane because I'm afraid of heights. It's like
Insane.
I feel so soft when I think about our previous generations, and we are. So it's one of those things that I'm a big proponent of, leaning into discomfort and fear. And one of the biggest things that's been a factor in my transformation, getting to the point where I feel very mentally strong actually at this point, is going through adversity. So I talk a lot about even cold showers. I take a 5-minute cold shower every day. And even in this -30 weather in the last week, I was outside with my shorts and no shirt on doing 5 minutes of cold therapy, not because I love doing it at the time. It feels horrible. Every time I go to do it, it's really difficult. I wake up at 5 or 6 a.m. every morning. I don't have to. That's really uncomfortable too. In fact, that's the hardest part of my day, is when my alarm clock goes off. But when I consistently face that adversity every day, then when I go out into the real world and I have to have that difficult conversation with, an associate or with someone important to me, or I get that bill in the mail, that unexpected email that is really unfortunate for my circumstances, it's not as hard, right? I think there's, really something to be said about leaning into discomfort. That is when growth happens. Comfort's a drug. There's a survival mechanism in our brain that doesn't care about our happiness. It just wants us to survive. And what better way to survive than to continue doing what's got us here today? And it really will just avoid any discomfort like the plague, because it doesn't know that the discomfort we have now is not life or death. It was for thousands and thousands of years, but now discomfort is like, I don't know, what's discomfort like that we deal with today? It's like, I don't know, you
Sitting
stub
in
your toe, or
traffic.
yeah, sitting in traffic, and our brains haven't been able to determine that that's not a life or death situation. We're still living, this is the times we're living in. This is like such a small fraction of history that we don't have to wake up and worry about dying every single day.
Yeah. You
You
bring
know?
such a good point.
Yeah.
How much does physical health correlate with mental? And I really wanted to ask you this because you are heavily prevalent in self-development, and you've been in the fitness industry for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
How is that correlated with your mental health personally, and with, I guess, people that you've been around?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they all work synergistically. I take a mind, body, spirit approach. And I truly, man, I'll say this. I don't know anyone who is fully happy in their life. I mean, or mentally strong, let's say, and also at peace. I don't, and that might be the best way to describe it. I don't know anyone who has inner peace, who doesn't cultivate and put attention and weight into mind, body, and spirit, right? I just think they all work synergistically. And I don't think you can really have ultimate mental wealth, like I call it, if you don't move your body, if you don't respect it to a certain degree. And same with spirit. Like if you don't believe that there's some sort of depth, whatever you believe in, there's so many varying aspects to spirit. But if you don't believe there's some depth to what this all is, I think it's really hard to be mentally strong and happy and fulfilled. So, and then again, if you don't take care of your mind and you don't put attention into your mind, I know a lot of people who are really fit and look amazing, but they're very depressed, So I just think they all work synergistically. And I know for me, specifically nutrition has been an absolute game changer. I would not be where I was. I don't know anyone who has a stricter diet than me. Anyone who knows me really well knows I'm the most annoying person to go to a restaurant with, because or like even travel with. Like whoever ends up with me romantically too is like going to be a hero, because they're going to be tolerating a lot of pickiness. And I'm not picky, but I'm.
Are you a vegetarian?
No,
Oh,
man.
vegan?
No,
Nothing
no,
like that?
no.
You eat meat?
Oh, of course I do. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone thinks that the only way to be healthy is be a vegan these days.
Yeah.
But I was vegan for 6 months.
How did
Trust me,
that
it's
go?
not the most optimal diet for everyone. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that. I've tried everything,
You have, eh?
literally everything. You name a
Yeah.
diet, I've tried it. Even the carnivore diet, which is eating nothing but, I did it properly, nose to tail carnivore. I was eating organ meats and everything.
Wow.
I've done every cleanse, detox. I've done paleo, ketogenic. I've done vegan. I've done everything.
Wow.
Vegan was one of the ones that I felt the worst. And
Really? Wow.
and I was so upset because I wanted it to be the thing,
Yeah.
And that's the thing with the vegan stuff is I'm not against vegan or vegetarian. I think for us to say that it's the optimal human diet that's a bold claim, because there's not a lot of evidence to say that meat in the diet is really bad for you. The problem is a lot of the studies around meat and stuff like that take people who are eating the standard American diet and they're eating industrially raised meat that's literally a different kind of food than the type of meat I would eat, let's say, which is like grass-fed, grass-finished, pasture-raised organic beef, or let's say.
Yeah.
Those are two different kinds of food.
Yeah.
So I think we overconsume meat, no question. The way we raise meat is horrible. It is harmful to the environment based on the demand of meat. So I think the whole vegan and vegetarian thing has been good. But yeah, to call it the optimal human diet is, in my opinion, just not
Yeah.
at least from my experience.
I've always wanted to try it.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
Just try it for a certain period of time just to see.
I think it's good. I still go point like a week or whatever where I won't eat meat, because it's a good just to kind of switch it up and to go off of it for a bit.
What do you think of fasting?
Oh, game changing.
Are you
game changing?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do intermittent fasting 6 days a week on average.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I eat within like a 6 to 8 hour window. Haven't had breakfast in years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I do 2 to 3 day fasts pretty regularly as well too.
Wow.
Fasting is incredible, and the research that's coming out about fasting is amazing.
Yeah.
The health benefits to it are incredible. It's interesting. Every religion kind of has fasting instilled in. If you look at our from a primal standpoint, we've been fasting for thousands and thousands of years, and it blows my mind, bro, that like we're so concerned about you got to eat, like, oh, it's so unhealthy to No, like we are overeating
Yeah.
like crazy. Stop worrying about people not getting enough food. Like we're good.
Yeah.
People need to eat less. Like give your system a break. Like, and the problem is not the problem, but the thing is once you get used to the fasting, you start to feel incredible. There is not a time where I feel more amazing than on the second or the third day of a fast. Just water and sea salt. I feel absolutely incredible. But if you take someone who has the standard American diet or whatever, and you just all of a sudden put them on like a 2 or 3 day fast, they're not going to feel good.
No.
You take a chain smoker or anyone who just smokes 5 to 10 cigarettes a day and you tell them to just stop all of a sudden, even though that's a healthy choice, they're not going to feel good,
Yeah.
right? Your body adapts to everything. It needs what it's used to. So it takes time to work up. And that's the problem, I think, is a lot of people just are like, oh, I'm going to start fasting. And they're like, oh, that wasn't for me. I was too, well, the first time I stepped into a cold shower, I didn't say that's for me,
Yeah.
like it was brutal.
Yeah.
The first time I worked out, it was hard. You got to let your body adapt to things. And fasting is just incredible. There's a lot of research to suggest that doing like a 4 day fast, quarterly or, every once in a while, 4 to like 7 days or whatever, is potentially getting to the point where it basically can starve a tumor, because tumors need to grow and they feed off sugar, and they also feed off like amino acids as well too, which is protein.
Yeah.
So there's some evidence to and I'm not a scientist. I'm not great at analyzing data and stuff like that. This is just going off people who I find to be very credible and look at research. They suggest that if we fast like that, quarterly or once, twice a year, it may be able to even starve cancer cells, because, tumors can't grow if it doesn't have nutrients and stuff like that. So there's really promising stuff. And for the mental health stuff, I feel so much better cognitively when I'm fasting. Once my body is adapted to fasting, and that took a while. It took, like, for anyone listening that's interested in fasting, take baby steps.
Yeah.
Don't go into a 4 day fast right away.
As a Muslim, it's funny because I've been fasting since, God, I think 13 or 14, like the 1 month fast. There's no food, no
Just eating at night, right?
Just
When the
eating at night.
sun's down,
Yeah. And the first couple days of that month is hard.
Yeah.
But then after
how
the
do you
3 or
feel
4
after?
days, you feel
great?
fine.
Yeah.
Like it's not as, like, I think usually because especially here, I think right now, Ramadan is a lot longer because in the summertime here, the sun doesn't go down until like 9 or
Right.
10 o'clock. So
Yeah,
you can't
right.
eat
Yeah.
for 18 hours straight. You can't even have a sip of water.
Yeah.
Now replace that with
water.
having some water
Yeah.
or,
With a little
fluids.
sea salt.
Yeah. Having it throughout the day, it'd be so easy. I'd fly by it.
For sure. And the other thing
yeah.
too to mention is, like, again, it takes a lot of prep. Like, even if I do even a 2 or 3 day fast, I'm doing ketosis, like I'm in ketosis, and I'm doing a ketogenic diet. I'm lowering my carbohydrate intake like 7 days before to prep myself for the fast, so that I feel good and it's not too much of a change. And then after, I'm, going into kind of a reverse outro of the fast kind of diet. So it's like, it's not as simple as just not eating. There's a lot of prep that, there's supplements that I take while I do it and stuff like that. So yeah, it's but I'm a huge proponent of it, man. I absolutely am. It's game changing.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
I guess being an entrepreneur, and I really like to pick a lot of entrepreneurs' brains about this, but being that you go through a lot of things and you're dealing with a lot of moving pieces, how do you keep yourself in a good mental state? And obviously that's, you're going to go through the ups and downs, obviously. And for people listening, even if you're not an entrepreneur and you're going through all these ups and downs, the chaos of life.
Mm-hmm.
For yourself, Kaylor, how do you keep yourself in a zone, or when you're going through the chaos, what kind of keeps you going?
Yeah, I kind of have like 8 key principles. Let's see if I can remember them here. But physical health, number 1. Number 2, meaning and purpose, and having a strong sense of meaning and purpose. Number 3, self-love. Number 4, simplifying your life, keeping your life simple. Number 5, being present and mindful. And number 6 is fear. Okay, so facing your fear and having the ability to lean into discomfort, like we talked about. Relationships, cultivating relationships, social connection, and gratitude, being grateful. Those are the 8 weeks that I have. I have a program that I take my clients through, and those are the 8 foundational things that I think you need to put attention into in order to create, again, what I call mental wealth. And, again, physical health is huge, right? Because
Now, are those from top priority to?
I wouldn't say priority,
Yeah.
but I do them in that order because, for example, physical health. If I see someone who is suffering and going through a challenge, they're lost, they're, just going through a really hard time, the quickest ROI that we can get, the thing that we can get them to do that will give them the quickest amount of energy is to just get them moving. Cut out the processed foods out of their diet, lower your sugar intake, work on your sleep, implement the sleep system that I have so you can get better sleep and regulate your circadian rhythm and stuff like that. When you just work on the physical body, then it's almost like, it's kind of like having a car before you go on a road trip. What are you going to do? You're going to make sure the tires are filled up. You're going to make sure the oil is topped up. You got the windshield fluid. Like, you're going to wash it. You're going to make it look good. Like, you're going to clean it. Like, it's like this transformational journey it's like a road trip, and you gotta just get good physically. So that's just an example of, like, that's why we start with physical health. Then meaning and purpose, I think is the core of mental health. At least having a deep sense of meaning and purpose gives us the strength to really deal with the inevitable adversity and suffering of life. The Viktor Frankl, I don't know if you've heard of the book Man's Search for Meaning. Have you ever heard of that book? I have
heard of that, yeah.
It's I think it's the Bible of personal development and mental health. But he has a very simple saying, basically, that's, I think it was Viktor Frankl, but he says, he who has a why can bear any how. And that's kind of the way I look at meaning and purpose, is like, if you find that thing that just lights your soul on fire and makes you jump out of bed in the morning, and it makes you be able, gosh, Viktor Frankl, for those who haven't read the book, he was in a internment in a Jewish, what do you call it? Why am I drawing a blank?
The Holocaust?
The Holocaust.
The camps?
Auschwitz. He was
Yes.
in Auschwitz.
Yeah.
Yeah, the internment camps.
Yeah.
There's another word for it that I'm blanking, but he was in, you can't possibly think of a more suffering-ridden environment than, like, one of those camps. And he was able to get through that because he had a deep sense of meaning and purpose. And for some people, it might be sewing. For some people, it might be their daughter. For some people, it might be a podcast. Like, whatever. It's like, we need to find that thing that charges us up. And when you have that clarity on why you exist, why do you walk this planet, and what do you bring to make this world a better place? When you have clarity on that, then when you get hit with a terminal illness, that's what's going to make you carry you through it. When you even just hit a rainy day in your life, it's just what will really get you through. Then again, 3 is self-love. So, we have to we have to love ourselves like we love other people. And honestly, man, most people, it's crazy how much we value other people's opinions more than we value our own. And it's crazy how much we will make sure that everyone is happy before we even look at, ourselves. And we need to build self-love the same way we build love with others. We need to show up and keep the promises that we make ourselves. We need to talk to ourselves like we talk to other people,
Yeah.
And we don't do that enough. Yeah. And then simplifying your life is so important. Presence, mindfulness, being in the moment. They say that depression is dwelling on the past and anxiety is fearing the future. So if you're anxious, you're living in the future. If you're depressed, it's because you're dwelling on the past. But the now, dude, there's magic in the now. Like the now is 99.9 repeated percent of the time, you're fine in the now. Like life is okay in the now. And if you can appreciate, the way you're feeling, the smells, what you're hearing, if you can just be in the moment, really, again, 99.9% of the time, anxiety and depression don't exist in the now. So if you can just find a way to be present, then you're good. And then again, fear, going back to the discomfort thing, I think that everything we've ever wanted in life, or most of the things that we want in life, is just on the other side of fear. It's that difficult conversation that you're not willing to have and that you're avoiding, that would just catapult you to where you want to get to. Or it's whatever, it's booking that ticket to go to that place that you've always been fearful of and procrastinating. 7 is relationships. They did a study, a 75-year study at Harvard, where they followed people for 75 years, and they wanted to see what is it that has the biggest effect on overall well-being on people. They wanted to see, like, what is that main factor that we need to cultivate in our life that's highly correlated to just our overall well-being over a lifetime. And they found that it was relationships. And, studies can be flawed and whatever, but I mean, I think there's a lot of validity to that, because you can mark, they always say like a good gauge of a life well lived is how many people show up to your funeral. And I think that's, there's something to that, and we are here to connect. And if we don't connect, I mean, think about this, man. You guys have the podcast. I have the Mental Wealth Project. We go on social media, we go about our days. It's all surrounded and rooted in connection. That's all. This isn't a podcast. This is connection with other people and your audience. So relationships, and then gratitude. If we don't have the ability to just be grateful for what we already have, and the research on gratitude is actually really fascinating. We can't be fearful, we can't be depressed, we can't be anxious if we're experiencing gratitude. Those are just polarized. They can't be experienced at the same time. So if we can find a way to be grateful for what we already have, it's a powerful thing. So those are the 8 things. And I know that's, you asked like, okay, if someone's suffering or having a hard time, and I just said 8 things, which are pretty complicated. But even if you can just replay this and go through, those 8 things, and just see which areas out of all those 8 things you can just start. Like physical health, maybe you just start, if you've been lacking on your workouts, maybe just say for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to make it to the gym 3 times a week, and I'm going to cut out that, pop that I drink in the afternoon. Like, just start small and go from there. And reach out to me on Instagram and we can chat. I'm more than happy to help. But kind of a long-winded answer, but that's truly what I would say.
No, that I mean, way to kind of wrap that up, because that's really powerful, man. I think a lot of people that are listening to this will take a lot of value from that. So I appreciate you
course.
Sharing that. I like to ask we like to ask our guests that we bring on, like, one question that kind of wraps everything up.
Yeah.
And that's, what does the second floor mean to you? Now, the metaphor of the second floor is, striving to get to that next level, in your life, whether that's through business, whether that's through relationships, whether that's through life in general.
Mm-hmm.
So in your life, Kaylor, what does that mean? What does going to that next level mean? Or what does the second floor mean?
Yeah, I think it's transforming my life to get to a point where I can it's almost unlimited, the amount that I can give back to the people I care about the most. And, they always say that cliche saying, when you get on a plane, they talk about the oxygen mask coming out. And, they say that you got to put your oxygen mask, if you have kids, you got to put your oxygen mask on first and then put it on your kids. And it's a cliche kind of analogy, but it always gets brought up with my clients when we talk about their lives, because there's a lot of people out there that are just trying to put their oxygen masks that they have available on everyone else, and they're forgetting about themselves. I've been putting my oxygen mask on me for quite a while now, and I'm almost I'll never be at 100%, but I'm getting there, and I'm feeling really good about it. And I just can't wait. And this is what the second floor is for me, is I can't wait to just have the biggest freaking oxygen tank that I can just go around to all the people that are starving for oxygen, and just boom, just absolutely put it on hopefully millions of people, and that to me is the second floor. Is I'm finally at a point where I feel like, I'm breathing in a lot of that oxygen, and I can now go out and, like I said, hopefully millions of people that I can, help get more oxygen, because I just think a life of service is a life of happiness, if you really kind of approach it that way, and just helping people, man. A lot of people need help, and I was somehow lucky enough, and I'm so grateful. I was lucky enough to have the tools to be able to break through that for the most part. And I think it's only anyone who's been in that position, responsibility, to give it back to others now, because there's people that helped me along the journey too. So that's my second floor.
Damn, that was one of the best answers we've had on the show.
Come on, man.
I'm telling you, man. Yeah. So
I hope you're not just saying that, because that means a lot, man.
that's seriously, cool. That was, for me, that was one of the best. So
cool.
Honestly, Kaylor, I appreciate you coming on.
Of course.
And the last thing I want to leave with is, where can people find your projects? Where can people find you personally if they want to reach out? Maybe plug those in right now.
Yeah, I want to try and keep it simple, because I could definitely blurt out a few, because I got the Mental Wealth Project, and then I got me personally. I think if I want to simplify it, I would say let's maybe just focus on Instagram. That's kind of where myself and the Mental Wealth Project are the most active. You can find me at Kaylor.Betts on Instagram. You can find the Mental Wealth Project at Mental Wealth Project on Instagram, and DM us, DM us. We love that. I love that. And I guess lastly, you can go to thementalwealthproject.com, and you can enter in your name and email, and you get subscribed to our newsletter, and we call it Mental Wealth Weekly. And it comes out every week, and you'll just stay tuned to what we got going on and stuff like that. And then I guess lastly, I got to mention the podcast, Mental Wealth Podcast, and you can find us iTunes, Spotify, and that's a fun place to follow our journey as well too. So
absolutely. So guys, you heard it. Make sure to go follow Kaylor and his projects. Dude, This was a great conversation, man. I really enjoyed this, and I really took a lot of value for myself. So
Awesome, man.
I hope the listeners got some stuff too. So
Yeah, I think they did, man. You led the conversation very well. I appreciate it.
yeah, thank you. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.